an interesting thing. We were dealing with the involvement of the spine, of certain places, certain hidden places in the spine, and patterns of movement, and we could see here how much this is brought forth. See? It's the upper dorsal spine somehow, which is involved, and actually all the spine, but mainly there, where the adjustment has to be done. And if someone is progressing in that kind of pattern, it is, among other things, by getting that involvement eased up, by knowing, oh, there what I'm doing, there, this place and so on, or this place and so on, which is unusual actually. It's unusual. You know? And then if I say I put my head underneath my armpit, it's you can say it, but how do you do it? And here it's actually done somehow. See? Because you put it here and you look up to the ceiling. Actually, the fact that you are putting your shoulder down, okay, but as a pattern of doing something, it's really unusual. And that's why it brings into the learning process, into running. Because doing unusual things, you have to be attentive, and here you have to be attentive on every detail. Nothing has to escape you, because what do you do with this toe and with that toe, and where, which knee, and how the weight is distributed. You have to deal with all the things, you see? And in the usual way, you stand up. You don't have to deal with this. It's so usual. You don't have to think of what are the toes doing and how the weight distribution and how I'm adjusting to the field of gravity and anything in terms of the orientation in space. Where am I oriented here? Here the shoulders are on the place and the legs orient themselves accordingly. It's the other way around. So just to see as an example of something which is put in a clearly, totally unusual way, only to make the learning process clearer. Yeah, I think this is as an example of that kind. It is clear, and then you can see another thing. A few of you, or most of you, actually couldn't imagine what's going to happen and how to do such a thing. Yeah, it was very unusual. And then suddenly, oh, you stand on that shoulder and balance yourself and do different movements with security somehow, which is really as something which is done as something unusual, to do it with such a security and knowing what you're doing and adjusting here and there and so on, and doing fast and slow, everything. And to reach this by that kind of learning is exactly as an example. Any example can do, of course, but here you have again another example of the same attitude, or the same approach, and that's why I would see this as for you to clarify again and again what we are doing, how we proceed in that kind of learning. And so ATM described as a series of movements is actually nonsense, because there were so many movements different. No two of you have done the same thing actually. It was different. Not because it looks different, this is of course looks different, but also if it looks similar, still, how is it related to what you sense and where your attention, and how is it comparing to what is somehow usually done or somehow accepted, whatever. All this, and where I have difficulties here and where there, and I have to protect myself differently than the other person. So, I mean, it's really different. So you can't talk about a series of movements. Some, you know, there are you have to know it because you will be professionals actually. There are people who do some workshops, and then they say, oh, the Feldenkrais movements. Now I will incorporate the Feldenkrais movements in what I'm doing. I'm doing whatever I'm doing, doesn't matter, gymnastics or dancing or some therapy, whatever, and I can take Feldenkrais movements. What are Feldenkrais movements? There's actually no such thing, because those movements are regular thing. And Janne says, okay, those things are done in training in the martial arts, which is known, well known. I mean, I didn't tell it before, but he told me, so it's okay. So he recognized it as such, which is the right thing. Yeah, okay? So it's not an invention, those movements. But to learn by those movements something, to use those movements for learning something, this is the Feldenkrais essence. So the movements are just to take any movement which is a little bit unusual and you use this for that learning. If you take out the learning, you do only the movements, it stops being Feldenkrais. So Feldenkrais movements is an absurd thing. There's no such thing, even if you might hear of it now and then, or sometimes really often. I'm sorry, I have to be very clear about those things, and because this is part of my understanding what keeps the clarity of what we are doing here. Okay, so I wanted to take again this opportunity to say it. I said it already, those things, and any Feldenkrais ATM lesson, I mean in the style of Feldenkrais, has to deal with that topic, with the learning. The movement is unimportant, totally. I mean, you can do something else. You can do just something else, and not movement. Movement is a good example because we have good control over it. You can see it, and here we have the kinesthetic sense, which is anyway a good thing to develop and to clarify and so on. We have senses to use them for that. Otherwise, any activity can be used for learning, anything. And musicians, when they play a new thing, they use that kind of learning also, becoming aware. What I did here in order to hear what I want to be heard and whatever. It's the same approach. So they are using music for the same purpose. So to do this is not Feldenkrais. To play the piano is not Feldenkrais. It's the same. But to do it with awareness and to say, what I did here or what I did here, that way, I can observe myself. Yeah, and learn from it and differentiate. I can do it that way, I can do it another way around, now I have choices. This is Feldenkrais. And many are doing it. It's not Feldenkrais' invention, because so many, all the good ones are doing it that way anyway. You see? But to take non-professional people who are somehow estranged from all that kind of thing, and to make it useful for them, this is Feldenkrais, okay? To make it clear and to make it established in a scientific way, to make it a system out of it, and to see how it works, and to use that ways of how it works. This is Feldenkrais. Otherwise, any little child, for a little baby, is learning what it learns by this method. They never heard about Feldenkrais. Yeah. Okay. Let's see something which might be connected with this. I want a little bit clarity. If this is that place, the upper dorsal spine, which is so significant, to make it a little bit clearer. Additionally, we have done it already, and we'll do it again, because we those days, this was one of the topics, to see how that spine, the involvement of the spine, the clarification of the involvement of the spine can be of good use. Sometimes you only touch something and you have an effect, a significant effect, only by touching there. Because it goes to a place where the clarification of it is so much needed. The moment this is clarified, all kinds of functions, way of functioning are clarified by it. Okay? So, anyone who wasn't lately here? Okay. Wolf? Lie on your stomach.